Yo, what's up? I'm Luis Patiño and welcome to a new episode. I'm so excited, and yeah, if you're new here, this is an entrepreneurship podcast and I'm Luis Patiño. And if you're new here, well, I have a consulting business called Think Social, and we help businesses grow through social media and digital marketing. And well, this is a podcast about entrepreneurship and digital marketing. Also, yeah, that's my niche. And well, here in the podcast, I interview successful entrepreneurs, digital marketers, unicorn startup founders, and I ask them questions that will provide you with tools and information that will help you grow your business and yourself. I have a guest today, Anna Hosbein de Aliaga. She's an entrepreneur and yeah, she's my friend. I met her because I had to make sales and I visited her store in Cochabamba, Tote La Vie, and I tried to pitch her my services. As usual, she rejected me and we became really good friends. And because we both read a lot. She always recommended me amazing books. That's because we became, yeah, she's like my guru because yeah, she's a really nice person. She likes to help and add value to people. You will enjoy the podcast. I'm make sure you will. She also has a free library in Cochabamba. If you are at Casa Mercado, and if you don't know that place yet, I highly recommend it because you will find amazing books in English, very cheap, and also you can also take your old books and exchange them for new ones or used new ones. Yep. If you're from the US, welcome to. And yeah, make sure you just email Anna and you can reach out to her and maybe it's a good opportunity to talk with her or just ask her questions. Long story short about Aha Bolivia, Anna's brand and business. Aha Bolivia is an ethical fair trade knitwear and recyclable plastic leather goods supplier and manufacturer based in Cochabamba, Bolivia. The company was founded over 20 years ago on the pillars of respect of workers' rights, traditional artesanías, and the importance of using locally sourced materials. They are also, yeah, they're a sustainable business. That means that they care about the planet. You will listen that more on the podcast, and yeah, you will enjoy it. It's an approach to business where you take holistic decisions, where you help also the world, not just make profit. Tote La Vie also is a conscious and environmentally friendly brand that accommodates to your everyday needs without compromising style or functionality. Anna will talk about more about her brand, and yeah, I'm so grateful to have Anna in the podcast because we talked about the 6 P's of sustainable businesses, Zen Mindset, and how to approach life as a beginner, morning routines, and how to tell your story and build your brand, and much, much more. Listen to the end of the podcast because we share 3 books every entrepreneur should read. And if you want to get Tote La Vie product, just check the links in the description. And if you want to reach out to Anna, just send her an email. Follow me on Instagram as elpadblanco, at elpadblanco. I'm going to spell it for you. ELPATBLAANCO. Follow me on Instagram and also on Facebook and YouTube as Luis Patiño. I will share information that will help you on business. And if you have an online business, I'll make sure this information will help you. And yeah, that's it for this intro and enjoy the podcast. Let's roll. Okay, good morning podcast. And if you're listening this to another country, welcome. And I have a pretty amazing guest today. She's an entrepreneur, and she has amazing values on life, and she contributes to the world with her business. So yeah, I'm with Anna Hosbein, and she's going to introduce herself and tell us what she do. Welcome, Anna.
Okay. Thank you, Luis. Um, my name is Anna Hosbein de Aliaga, and I started a business in Bolivia with my husband 30 years ago. We had a couple of three pumas that we had to sort of take care of. And so we started a business with artisans in Cochabamba, Bolivia. And um, over the years, we've worked with designers all over the world. And we also have our own signature brand called Tote La Vie, which is a series of accessories that will last you your entire life. So our our sort of perspective with those products is to combat built-in obsolescence, the concept of making stuff that breaks and so that you create new people will keep buying. So we were sustainable and ethical and all of those new words even before they were out there. So that's what we've been doing in Bolivia for the last 30 years.
Amazing. And what about the you have like you told me that you have a signature brand and you have Bolivia. What's the difference between
Basically,
those?
Okay, basically what we had was we had a manufacturing house in Bolivia, first of all with handbags, because um, I had a partner in the United States who found a niche in the handbag industry, and then we incorporated a recyclable plastic, which is used for the local market bags in Bolivia, and that became kind of our signature look. She eventually left the partnership, and we stuck with it. And so that brand makes um, high high quality reusable market bags, wallets, totes, bicycle baskets, backpacks, quite a few different things. But our whole point is that once you buy one, you will have it for the next 20 years. It will not break, or if it breaks, we repair it, reuse it, or recycle it. So we want to be responsible for our products. And this is a concept that Patagonia uses and some other very big brands that basically make things but don't want to make things that become garbage. And so this is a concept, circular economy, that you're a part of a, sort of like a consumer food chain, but you want to make sure that your products don't end up in landfills all over the world. So that's our signature brand, Tote La Vie. And then Aha Bolivia is sort of the umbrella company. And Aha Bolivia, it produces high quality knitwear for customers all over the world. We work mainly for designers in Europe, Japan, Australia, the United States, and Canada. And we work with between 1 to 300 artisans. It depends on how busy and how many orders we have. But over the last year during the pandemic, obviously we were not as busy as in previous years. So we do with our Aha Bolivia company, we are a ethical manufacturing house working with mostly women artisans in hand knits, machine knits, and crochet. And so our stuff is on the runways in Milan and New York, and we've worked for amazing designers, and we continue to be contacted every day by designers who are doing really interesting things.
Amazing. And well, we were talking about business before the podcast, and you were talking about well, the intention you have. It's not only profit, right? But and well, there's other business that tried the same. Maybe they try to copy your products, but they don't have the same impact. And like what when you came to Bolivia, what was and you started business, what was your intention to like to reach another countries? How was that mindset?
It um as we were talking before, I think people going into business now have a lot more resources, and they at their fingertips, which is basically, you get on the computer and Google and you look at Facebook and look at different ideas. When we when I started this business, when we started this business, because I started it with my husband, we didn't have those resources, and we had a need. We had a need to make money to support 3 pumas. And that is a weird need to have. And
Yeah.
so, but we had certain values. So our values had to be reflected in what we ended up doing in a business to try to make money. Because when I first discussed starting a business with artisans, I had a friend who worked in an NGO, and her idea was, it was very anti-business, and what she said to me was, "Oh, so you're going to exploit people?" And her mentality was, businesses exploit people. And my mentality about business was, business can give people income. So
Yeah,
depending
makes
on
sense.
your perspective on, you know, I don't even want to get into it here, capitalism, socialism, communism, whatever. Um, you have an idea about business, but also there's an idea about business that it is mainly for profit. And this for me is a partial view of business. Businesses have to make money to continue to support themselves and to pay their workers and to buy their material, their raw materials. But this is only part of what business does. Business has an incredible influence on the planet. So you look at the things that are most influencing the planet right now, and they're businesses. They're not necessarily governments. So when you make a business, I feel like you have to become responsible. You all have to have responsible values, unless you want to do something like, what was it that e-commerce site called Silk Road, where they sold drugs and stuff like that. Unless you intentionally know that what you're doing is wrong and you're just doing it for business, if you're trying to be a constructive member, business part of society, you need to take into consideration other values.
Yeah,
So
makes sense. But
yeah,
you're adding a lot of value to the world, right? Because you're not only making profit, but you're helping women that have scarce resources. Also, you're helping the world because you're recycling your own product. So the money you make depends
that's
on the value you add, right? Because if you don't add value, people won't pay you. Yeah, because that's the main. But
it's
yeah, how
interesting.
business
It's
works.
interesting, especially right now. We live in a pandemic world, and millions and millions of people have lost their jobs. And so now there's a certain sector of society, and I think it's the broad majority, that they do not have disposable cash to buy anything other than their food and very, very cheaply made items. So the big winner in kinds of consumer products like things is China. China is booming. It makes cheap stuff, and people don't have disposable cash to buy more expensive things. So that is part of what's happening to the economy today. The other thing that's happening with a certain sector of the economy are people who are able to they have a bit of money, but they don't want to buy just the cheap stuff. And so they want a story. And that story now has to be about the value added, like you were mentioning. What is the value added? What is the story behind the brand? What is the story behind the people who are making these things? And that is a growing economy as well. And so that's where we fit in. We can't and we do not want to compete with China. I would not want to pay any artisan the wages that are paid in China. It would be basically almost slave labor. And so I do not want to follow that model. What I'd like to do, and what we have been doing, is creating beautiful things with treating our artisans well, being conscientious about the planet and what happens to our stuff, and having customers who not only enjoy their products that they buy from us, but also maybe something that we're doing inspires them to think differently, or that would be great if that happens. I'm not sure if that's happening, but that would be great.
Yeah, well, you're creating a story and you're creating a brand, not just consumer goods, right? But Anna, maybe we can start with kind of your daily routines, your values. Maybe that will give a frame to the audience before we. But I think the value the last questions covered a lot on business, but yeah, maybe we can warm up people and give them a frame about your kind of values. But my next question is like, you're the founder of a sustainable business, and well, you have certain values, and well, that also reflects on your daily routine and habits. So what are some daily habits you or maybe your
Yeah,
morning
no,
routine that helps you also build your
yeah,
business and build a better lifestyle, if you will?
one thing, yeah, no, my sort of daily routine and habits are um, kind of a mixture of what you say, your values. So, one of the things that I'm an avid reader, and you know that because we met because you are an avid reader too. And
Yeah.
um, in the previous store we had, we started what was called the free library, because a lot of people donated books to me, or gave me books because they were leaving the country and they knew that I read a lot. So I always have, right next to my bed, I always have probably a stack of 5 to 10 books that I'm reading. And sometimes, like, let me just take today, for example. I woke up, I read probably for an hour. Then I got on my bike. I rode my bike to this store, and I sort of looked at the shelving in the library, and then I'm talking to you. That um, that is a little bit different than what sometimes I do, because most mornings I either read, listen to podcasts, or meditate, or all three. And so meditation is kind of a tricky word. I was raised a Catholic, and so I don't necessarily go to church, and I don't really like the I'm spiritual but not religious sort of thing. But the Dalai Lama says it very well. Do whatever you need to do to be more connected with the world around you. And whatever that is, whether it's going to church or whether it's being a certain way, do that to be connected to better to the world around you. So I spend a lot of time reading. I spend a lot of time doing meditation and prayer exercises, and and also listening to different kinds of podcasts. And that's sort of what I do a lot in my spare time. Since the beginning of the pandemic, I've ridden my bike to work almost every day. And even now, after we can start driving, I still ride my bike. And the reason being is if I get in a car at 8:30 in the morning to go to work, I usually end up in a bad mood by the time I get to my job, because everybody in cars are usually like honking at each other or in a bad mood. But if I'm on my bike, I can, shoot off down a side street, and there's a flowering tree, and there are a lot of things happening in the world that we miss when we're in cars. So I love riding my bike, which is a big thing for my health. In terms of like diet and exercise, I do a lot of, I really have tried not to eat crap. And that's basically, that's basically my healthy diet is try not to eat a lot of sugar. I'm not a vegan. I'm not a vegetarian. I think that meat is a healthy part of my diet. And so I try to be a healthy person, but certainly, there are times when, you just try. I think the whole thing about life is a process. So just figure out what works for you. It's like I've read a lot of books trying to figure out daily routines of all these, like Tim Ferriss or some other person, but it ultimately it's a process of sort of hit and miss what works for you. And sometimes in your life you're going through a stressful time, so you're not doing things that are as healthy as possible. Give yourself a break. You don't have to always be, and you can't be perfect. That's the problem. I think that's the biggest problem about all those self-help books. We think that if we just do those things, we'll be closer to perfect. Well, no, everybody's different. So what they do in one book, they're contradicted. It's contradictory to another book. So just figure out what you do. And what works for me, like what makes me happy. One of the biggest things that makes me happy is getting on my bike in the morning. It's fantastic. It's like, great. I'm going to ride my bike.
Yeah, you're not with people, with angry and busy people. You're just enjoying the ride, right? Also
I
the
enjoy the
nature.
ride, except I do yell at some of the bad drivers, but I try as hard as I can to be
Is that
asleep.
part of the ride too?
That's part of the ride.
Okay, Anna.
Okay.
Okay, so Anna, what do you? What's the? Well, my question was, what are the best practices of meditation, and yeah, how people can, what's the benefit of
And
meditation
what
for
you
people?
wanted, what you asked me particularly was, what is your goal for meditation? And I
Well,
was saying
the outcome,
that,
yeah.
or
Well,
the
because
outcome, the desired outcome. And I
yeah,
said to you that it's one of the things that's very interesting. And I don't know if it's with your generation or with people now that read so much and have so much information on the internet, but everybody wants to measure things, and measurable things are not necessarily the most important things. And so some of the most important things, I think, in the world are not measurable, like fun with your friends, the love you have for your family, the amazing taste that you have when you eat your favorite food, the the beauty of certain works of art or music. And so all of these things are not measurable. And so therefore, when you have certain goals, especially when you're a business person, you're supposed to have certain goals, you're supposed to have KPIs, and you're supposed to have all these measurable things that you're supposed to accomplish. And that's good. that systematizes your business. But those are not the only important things in the world. And one of the things I was just mentioning was, the amount of fun you have with your friends might how does that combine with the amount of fun that some billionaire has with his friends? You might have more fun, but that's not a measurable thing. And
Yeah.
so, he has a lot more money than you do, but he doesn't necessarily have more fun than you do. You know what I mean? So when I meditate, I try to connect with the non-measurable. What is it about the world? What is it about beauty and truth and love and compassion and nature and spirit? What is it? Why? What's the meaning of life? And that's always, the book that everybody read, the one of the most famous books that's considered a must read is Viktor Frankl, who writes a book, who wrote a book called oh my gosh, it's slipping my mind. It'll come back in a minute. But he was in a concentration camp, and he was able to find meaning as, he was brutally treated, and everybody around him was in abject misery and being mistreated. And so he actually came up with logotherapy, which is how you perceive. You can have something happen to you, but how what meaning do you give that event? It can be horrible, or it can be something that you learn from, or it can cause you joy. So it's interesting. It's sort of more about the subjective view of how you perceive the world around you.
Awesome. So you focus on the non-measurable things, right? The
Focus
things
on the non-measurable things,
like
but I actually
happiness.
started. Well, it's interesting. I actually started meditating with Deepak Chopra's book. I think it was the 7
You do a
Spiritual Secrets
guided
of Success.
meditation, or you just do
Well, I made
you
up
you just
with
focus on
Deepak
your breath?
Chopra's.
What type of
No,
meditation
with
you do?
with Deepak Chopra's book, I broke it down into the 7 steps, and I would just repeat certain things like that. And the first step is that you're pure potential, and then I would imagination would go off in different tangents. The second one was giving and receiving. The third one was karma. The fourth one was effortless ease. The fifth one was intention and desire. The sixth one was, what was it, detachment. And the seventh one was dharma. All of those I concentrated on, and then I changed, because during the pandemic, I actually started taking courses on Mind Valley, and which is a really interesting online kind of school, I would call it.
Yeah,
And
it's
so
pretty awesome.
they,
Also, it's kind of
yeah, they,
expensive, right? Compared
well,
to another courses.
well,
But
they are actually, it's interesting because you can get a full pass, and then you have unlimited resources to
mm,
look at. But they
awesome.
actually have, I think it's a free online meditation app, which is called Omvana, and it's free. And you
Um,
can Omvana.
Ombana.
Yeah, and so I just randomly think, put on some of their meditations, and they have different people that have different, theories of meditation. And, I think that basically meditation, I make these little meditation benches. One of the things that I like about meditation is just stopping and having a little bubble around yourself where you're not being bombarded by the world. And so for me, meditation is kind of a little like almost a little bubble of quiet silence, whatever, that is where I can regroup. or where I can think about things or something like that. It doesn't necessarily, I don't need to make it very specific. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Awesome. You have like a certain like type of meditation, but you do like it's your as you told me before, it's your formula, right? You don't have to follow someone else's formula step by step because what works for you may not work for others, right?
I believe that. I think that everybody has to figure it out. So if thinking about your breath, if thinking about, you know, is helpful to you, do it. Just figure it out. And I think we're bombarded by so many different kinds of things. And one of the things I was watching a podcast last night. All these Everybody's trying to be so perfect. Everybody thinks there's a formula, there's a magic formula to make a lot of money, or there's a magic formula to study and meditate. There's a magic, and so many people are so driven, they're so competitive, they
Yeah.
need to succeed, they need to be perfect. And you know what, life is really kind of it can be a sloppy kind of mix of beautiful and profane and ugly and all of that kind of thing. And it's more about the process. It's more about how to accumulate tools that work for you so that you are guided through what is this path you're on. And so I don't think there's any way of being perfect. And I feel so badly for so many of the kids in the United States that, if they don't get into the right college, their life is destroyed. Well, no, they'll just go to a different college and have a different experience. But there's not one experience that is the best experience. Every experience is valid.
Yeah, yeah, you're
And
learning
every
from.
decision leads you
Awesome.
Yeah, and every decision leads you down a different path.
Yeah, you
And
grow.
maybe that's what you need to learn at that time.
Yeah, people are growing daily. They might think 10K in their pocket will mean success, but if they just do their meditation for the 10 minutes or 20 minutes, that will mean success too, right? It doesn't have to be always something big. You can eat fruit on the morning and that will be success because you're not eating crap, right?
Yeah, I think you need to give yourself a bit of a break. And I think people need to have a sense of humor, because
Yeah.
so much of what's happening today is so judgmental. We're so bombarded by people who are wrong. Oh, these people are wrong, and they think about, they don't think right, and we're right, and they're wrong, and that. It's all about learning. I think life is a learning process. And
It,
so
and so, Anna, what do you think when? Well, you learn a lot of things and you're unaware of how you think because it's your daily.
you don't
You're
know what you don't know,
yeah
right?
you're unaware, and there are people that are maybe have fear. They're fear to grow, or maybe they have this yeah this fear. They don't want to give a step forward. So what are the steps you take for when you have fear or something of the unknown? What are the steps you take to?
Basically, I dealt with fear when I was little, because I grew up with two identical twin brothers who were 1 year older than I was,
Mm.
and they were extremely fearless. And so they were my constant companions. They were my playmates. That's who I was around all the time. And they were crazy. And I was fearful that I was going to die doing half of the things they did. Like, hey, Anna, let's jump off this cliff into the water. And they'd be like, and then they'd go, make sure that you don't jump over there because you'll hit that rock, and make sure you don't jump over there because it's too shallow, and make sure, but jump. And so I spent half of my childhood facing fears because I had to do it. Otherwise, I would have no one to play with. So I had to jump off cliffs all the time. And it was very interesting because I didn't know it at the time. It was just what you did. Had to do.
Oh my
But
God.
when I realized in my later years, it was like my attitude towards fear was face it, talk to it. What's my greatest fear? What is my greatest fear right now? I don't know. I can think of a lot of things that I'm afraid of. But they, when you constantly face your fears, they become smaller. What's the ultimate fear? I guess is the fear of death. But I don't think I'm going to die anytime soon. I'm knocking on wood. Um,
Maybe
but I
we're
think,
gonna die, but yeah, we don't
you know,
know what's after
yeah,
that.
right. But fear of failure, what's failure? Fear of being alone, fear of getting sick, fear. Those are all people's fears. And right now during the pandemic, oh my gosh, fear is a palpable thing. I was just in the United States. We drove 7,000 miles across the United States with my husband in a car and visited everyone. And except we didn't visit the people who were too fearful because they thought, they're shut up in their houses. But we visited everybody that wanted to see us. And you could actually see different different in different places, different levels of fear. And I thought, this is such a shame. The United States was such a country that was so fearless in a way. And with this pandemic, a lot of people have encompassed fear, and the fear has made them kind of paralyzed. So I would say face your fears, even with the pandemic, even with whatever you're fearful of, face it, figure out how to deal with it and how to live with it. Because
Mm,
you can't just stop.
yeah, well, if you stop, you'll die, right? You'll die. You're a human being. You're dead, but you're breathing. But yeah, because if you don't make what you fear, it's just you standing there watching other people jump as your brothers, and you're standing just asking yourself, um, yeah, you're just there, right? Okay.
Right. You're a bystander and you're too fearful to take the next step. And oftentimes, because you're fearful, you criticize the people that aren't fearful. And that doesn't help either. You want to talk to those people and say, how come you're not scared? And can you give me some tips and stuff like that? You don't want to be judgmental or critical. And and that's the other thing. I think we so much want to be sure that we're right. And I think this Socrates said that what he knew was that he didn't know. And that's brilliant, because if you realize that you don't know everything, you're always looking for something. You're always finding something new out. You're very excited about life because every day you're learning something. But if
Yeah.
you're sure of what you know, you're very closed off. You don't learn something every day.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. If you want to grow, you have, well, as we talked the 3 days ago, maybe last week, you talk about the same mindset. That's you always be learning, right? You're not
Always
you're
learning.
not a pro. You're always a beginner in certain. Well, you're always learning. The world is changing. Internet, everything's changing. You're not mature every single day, right?
Right. And in some meditation practices, they always say beginner's mind. And the beginner, that, okay, that you can't swim because every time you jump in the water, you sink. But beginners, so you do have the knowledge that you need to learn. And if you keep learning and you keep looking, like, what do I want to learn today? Or what am I going to find out today? It's kind of exciting every day when you get up and think, wow, I'm going to learn something new.
Well, in what when you talk about your sustainable businesses, you have the free library that's nonprofit. You're just adding value to people. You also have some other projects at Casa Mercado. And well, what's success for you? I know what are your daily intention for life, like? Yeah, because if it's not money, then what moves you
Well,
forward?
so success for me is a balance of what I call the 6 P's, which is profit, um, planet, people, purpose, pride, and pleasure. And all of those, um,
And
the
that's success in business or in life, because yep,
I think it's in the I don't think you can separate your business from your life. I think what
this
you do for 3 to 8 hours a day, or is an integral part of your life. And so if you hate what you're doing, then you might be making a fortune, but you hate what you're doing, it's not necessarily success. So I think business and life success, if you're spending 3 to 8 hours a day, or 20 hours a day, or whatever you're spending at business, if you hate it, it's not successful. And so I think you have to integrate your life. Your life isn't broken up into compartments. It flows from one minute to the next.
yeah.
It's so success for me is a very interesting concept. I'm actually writing a chapter, because I'm writing a book on this, and I'm writing a chapter right now about success. And I think a lot of success for me is trying to find a healthy balance of so many factors that we need to take into consideration as we live through our daily lives, a lot of which we've mentioned before in this podcast: health, happiness, family, community, financial success, of course, is part of this. You can't, you don't want to be broke all your life, or
Yeah,
feel broke all your life.
or in
The
depth.
feel, yeah, or in debt, and you want to make good decisions, and you want to, have your family be healthy, all of those kinds of things. I think success for me is more of a balance. It's a balancing act, and it's continuously, it's a process every day. You never, for me, I think you never actually, you accomplish certain goals, but then you have other goals. So you can have an intention: I want to make $1 million by the time I'm 30. Okay, you make $1 million by the time you're 30. The day after you make your $1 million is the next day in your life. You still have to, what's your next thing? It's not like your life stopped after you did that. You have to make the next plan. And you know so I think it's a process.
No, awesome. Yet, like, you have to know, well, your mindset is that you're balanced in all your the part of your life, like health, also the world, the planet, and you also try to keep your business profitable, right? And
Right. And the relationships is very important. We recently, last year, made everybody that worked in our office, we gave them the option of making them partners. And 3 out of 5 people became partners. And so now we have 5 partners, and it changed the entire mentality of how they work. And they they feel so much better at work because it's theirs. If they work hard, they feel like they can make a better company. And so just making certain changes that take in sort of a holistic view. What can I do to make the people that work for me happier? What can I do? Or maybe they don't work for me anymore, they're my partners now. You know what I mean? And that made them happier. It made them more responsible. They don't just blindly come to work and check in and check out. They take part of the responsibility home with them.
mm,
They feel more a part of the overall business. So you always have to be, I think you always have to be particular and then big. You always have to think little and think big. And
yeah,
so if you think little, you're making specific changes about procedures or systems or whatever, but then in the bigger sense, how is that fitting in to, you know, the world, the lives of your workers, of the people who buy your products, all of those kinds of things.
Yeah, you when we met, you mentioned that your partners were also your part of your workers or your employees became partners, and that made the whole picture and a new frame of business, right? Because you're approaching business different. You're building like they are building their assets right now. They're not working for a paycheck, right?
Right. And the thing is that the when we changed this model, somebody that has been working in the business for over 20 years said to me, well, we should do this. And it was solving a problem that we'd had for 20 years. And I said, why didn't you tell me that 20 years ago? And he said, it wasn't my place. And so he had an answer to a problem that recurred for 20 years. And he didn't say, hey, this is a better way of doing this, because it wasn't his place,
Yeah,
because he was a worker.
he
He was
felt
in a
that he felt just empowered, right? Because yeah, that's the mindset some people have because they people or their parents told them that okay, this will make you successful, this degree or something, and when they have the degree, they feel empowered. But you when you think you have power from the beginning, you just tell your ideas because maybe that will help, right? It's a
right.
different mindset because yeah, people are fearless because also their parents told them that they will have power if they have that or they will do that.
No,
It's a
it's
mindset
interesting.
thingy.
It is a mindset. And and it was such a simple solution. I was like, why didn't you say anything? And it was like, it wasn't my place. And I thought, wow, I just learned a huge lesson.
Yeah.
And when you make a business and you're the boss, if there is any problem, it's your fault.
Yeah, yeah, you're I think in life when you approach from a you're responsible for everything that you well you want to have control of everything. Of course you don't have control of timing, luck or other people reaction, but you have yeah, you're responsible from everything when you become an entrepreneur, right? That's
There's a Yeah,
and
but
Anna,
the other thing is that
would you recommend people that to be entrepreneurs or not at all? What do you think?
I gave a talk once and this to a bunch of students from a university in the United States. And one of them was like, I want to go, I'm in business school, I'm getting my business degree, but I'm going corporate. And I was like, well, what does that mean? And basically she wanted to fit into a corporate structure and make a lot of money. That was her goal. And um, so I think people think of business in different ways, but I would say being an entrepreneur is most entrepreneurs I've met have been kind of wacky people, and they are coming up with ideas and this and that and the other thing. But the other thing that's happened during this pandemic is that a lot of people have lost their jobs. So there are people that never, ever wanted to be entrepreneurs that are now thrust into a situation where they have to do something. And they're kind of reticent entrepreneurs. They kind of didn't want to do it. But, I think entrepreneurs are it's a lifestyle that embodies change and magic. And basically that is what life is about, change and magic. And you can either try to be as secure as possible and get a job with a job that you're going to be in for 20 years, and you're going to get your paycheck and you're going to get your health insurance, but a lot of those jobs are disappearing. a
Yeah.
lot of a lot of that's not happening in this world anymore. And so now I think people have to be a little bit more open to change. And if you're not, and if you don't build a resilience to change or embrace it in some way, you'll be fearful, and you'll be kind of depressed a lot, because you're too, it's not something that you can, because it's scary. It can be scary to face life and change and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But entrepreneurs, I've found, and I've talked to some entrepreneurs who have made fortunes, lost fortunes, made fortunes, lost fortunes. I'm like, how do you emotionally deal with that kind of thing?
Yeah, it's
And they're
hard.
almost like adrenaline addicts.
Yeah, well, it's also a state of mind, right? Because some people have these fears and limited beliefs. I think people call it like that. And entrepreneurs are more like fearless, and they're goal oriented, right? So it's a different state of mind. This one, it's even if you tell them that if you give them a step-by-step book that will change their lives, they will not take action. And maybe these people stay like that from until their 60s, and that's not, yeah, well, that's a different
I would
scenario.
say I would say in the developing world, the broad majority of entrepreneurs are entrepreneurs out of necessity. You start you sell salteñas on the corner. Why? Because you need to make some money for your family.
Yeah.
And then maybe you get bigger, and maybe you don't get bigger. But I think a lot of entrepreneurs, they don't even think they're entrepreneurs. They just do what they do to make a life for themselves and their family. And that's more, and so this new intentional entrepreneur, that we're reading about in social media. I think most many businesses have are accidental. Like somebody had an idea, hey, let me try this. They're not conscious of being an entrepreneur. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just something started and did because I had a great idea. I have to feed my family. Did various things. But so I think a lot of the intentional entrepreneurs is a newer social media kind of concept.
Yeah, yeah. But it's, well, we are going to go on other questions on business, but I want to ask you these questions because you travel a lot, and maybe not like a lot. I don't know. Well, that's something, but to travel and to also have a healthy lifestyle, you need to have some financial habits and too, right? Well, what are some financial habits you have to, yeah,
I
because
don't spend, I make a lot of stuff to sell, but I don't spend a lot of money. And if I buy something, I want it to last for a long, long time. So if I buy a pair of shoes, I will buy an expensive pair of shoes that will last. I will not buy, something that's fashionable and that's gonna last for a month. And I spend my money more on experiences than on things.
awesome.
So yes, I travel a lot. I love to travel. I love to meet people. I love to see new things. And I will much rather have an experience than buy a fancy new something or other for my house, or a fancy outfit. I would much rather have an experience. And so financially, I sometimes I've been successful in managing my money and sometimes I haven't. Um, but I'm trying every day to get a little better on that. And so I think one of the things about having money is that you have to be responsible for it. And
Do,
so
do
you
you
have to decide what kind of decisions you need
do
to
you
make.
have a budgeting or something you make for a month or something, or you have an accountant? How do you manage that?
we have a business accountant. I also have a personal accountant, but I try to sort of be aware of what I spend my money on, and what and the flow of money in my life. There's a book called it's by Lynn Twist. It's called The Soul of Money, and it's about money being like water. Some people have a tiny little trickle that goes through their lives, and other people have Niagara Falls that's going through their lives. And if you think about money like that, you you need to you need to be responsible for that either the tiny trickle or the Niagara Falls. You should be responsible. It's something that has been, in a way, given to you, that you're a caretaker of. And so the tiny trickle, let's make good decisions. The Niagara Falls, let's make good decisions. And so when you have money, yeah, don't be so tacaño, or that you
Mhm.
never have fun, or that you never splurge. But if you're buying your 50th pair of shoes in a month, and your credit card bill is $10,000 in debt, probably you could not go without that last pair of shoes.
Yeah, you
you
should
know
flip them, right? Why you
yeah,
have the 15 pair of Nikes? Yeah, it doesn't make
right.
sense.
No, and but
It's
our icons are like, the Kardashians,
and
and the
it's the same
and
shoe with different colors and the same fucking shoe. Yeah.
no, I know. So it's interesting because we've built our here. A lot of people's heroes are, they're you watch the influencers on Instagram or wherever, or TikTok or whatever they are, and a lot of those people are like, they're pushing products and they're selling stuff, and but their lifestyles, if you think about them, I always wonder about like those people who are millionaires, and millionaires isn't even a big term these days, but who lost all their money because they bought too many houses or too many cars or this or that or the other thing. And you're thinking, okay, didn't you have a financial planner somewhere along the way? And
Yeah, yeah, they can hire it from way more cheaper than a house, right?
right, so it's interesting, but I do think you just have to be aware. You have to be aware. It's as simple as
Mm.
that.
I was reading the money makeover. I don't know if it's that's the book, but he talks about budgeting and getting out of debt, and also, yeah, don't buy the expensive car. You also, it's a budgeting book because most people just spend their money on stupid shit like Nikes or maybe houses. I don't know, Lamborghinis, but they 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 just buy these things because they want to impress people that they don't even like, right? That's the
Yeah,
whole focus of the book.
that's sales and marketing. That's the American dream. So that we've built a lot of our social world, our culture is about buying new stuff, and about that the financial stuff is is also cultural.
And I know when, well, you lived in the US till what age?
I lived in the U.S. through college, through university, and then after that, I went to India, and after that, I lived in Asia and India for over a year, 2 years. Then I lived in Europe, same year, 2 years. Then I went back to the U.S. and went back to school, and then I came and lived in Bolivia. And while I've been in Bolivia, I've traveled to all over South America, and I travel quite a bit. And the next trip I'm going to take is to Zimbabwe.
Awesome. So you're like a what people call digital nomad, where when you're not a digital, but you're like kind of like a nomad. And how
Well,
how do you
my
make that lifestyle works? Because it's like a lot of money. Maybe people like I do, I think it's a lot of money. I didn't have the lifestyle you had, but how do you approach a life to travel like a lot?
Well, while my kids were growing, we weren't nomadic at all. I'm only becoming, prior to being married and having kids, I was a nomad because I was working in some places. I worked in different NGOs. I worked in a leprosy center. I worked with Mother Teresa. And then I started writing. So I was a journalist and I wrote for different publications like The Economist, The Guardian, the the San Francisco Chronicle, stuff like that. And then I went back to school, and then I wasn't a nomad for the time it took to raise my kids, but I always would go back and forth to the United States. Now I can be more nomadic because my partners in the business are running the production of our in our company, and I am in charge of all the new clients, and I'm on WhatsApp and Zoom and stuff like that with them, and I can do that from anywhere in the world.
Awesome. So you choose your lifestyle first and you surrounded your actions around it, right? It's not the other way around.
No, I think once again, like I didn't I when I got married and had kids, that was sort of you had to sort of deal with your kids going to school, and so you didn't necessarily. I didn't choose that as a lifestyle. I did choose to have children, but I didn't. And so having children created a certain lifestyle. But it was interesting. My son, one of my sons in the United States, he was looking for a job, and the advice that somebody gave him was um, was find the city you want to be in and then start looking for a job there. And so he went to different cities in the United States, and he went to San Francisco and he went to New York, and he ended up in Austin, and he liked Austin better than San Francisco, New York, LA, whatever. And so he applied for jobs in Austin. And so that was a specific choice, but it was a geographical choice. And so
Makes
there are
sense.
different ways that you can make decisions now. And I think now that people are working virtually, a lot of them can work from anywhere.
Yeah, it's a remote work, right? Maybe you can write a book about that, and maybe that will be helpful for people like me or people like yeah who want to because before you have kids, you're having nomad lifestyle and you have a type of mindset. But yeah,
Yes.
maybe we can go on the next questions.
Yeah.
Okay. So, what's something you like about the Bolivian culture? Because you're from the U.S. and you travel maybe like a lot of countries, but what's something you like?
This is a term that some people might think is negative, but I think it's positive. I like this. I like the simplicity of the world here. Is in simple terms, you know where your food grows, you know where you people, you see the producers in the market, you go to a restaurant, you know what's things are much more, there are a lot fewer steps in the middle, you're
Mm.
a lot more, you're related much more directly to 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 almost all of life's processes. And I think that's a common thing in the developing world, but it's also kind of I go to the United States a lot, and there's a lot of things that are going on that make you so much more stressed out and so much more frantic. in a way. Like people are always go, go, go. I have to be productive. I'm on 5 different, websites at the same time. I'm ordering my tickets. I'm getting my groceries, and I'm doing my kids' homework. You're doing so many things at the same time. Sometimes you just should not be doing that many things. Sometimes you should maybe just be doing a couple things at once, or maybe one thing, or maybe not even just sitting there. And, I think that the pace of the world has increased so rapidly, but human consciousness hasn't necessarily increased so rapidly. So sometimes we get lost in the tumult of information.
Makes sense. It's like people call it busyness, not business. It's busyness. Yeah, because they're focused on being busy, right? They're not focused on just being happy. Like, yeah,
Or
that's
just you feel like you can do so many things, so you should do so many things. Like, but sometimes you don't have to do that many things. And so one of the things that I realized when I was just in the States the last time for 3 months, I was relieved to come back to Bolivia, because it was just like, it was a little bit less crazy, less frenetic in
okay.
terms of what people are, how people are interacting with each other in such a weird way. You know,
Okay.
it can be more humane. We're at a more human level, I think, in the developing world still.
So in the US, it's more focused on money. Like people want to make money, they're ambitious.
Necessarily that it's all of the things that entails. It's racing from one store to the next, getting your groceries, cooking your food, getting your kids to somewhere. Things have scaled to such an extent that there's a lot more activities that you have to do to accomplish certain things. And you have so many, sometimes choice is overwhelming. You have so many choices. You have so many choices. Instead of, if you have more limited choice, sometimes you don't worry about it as much. But oh my gosh, if you have 20 choices for every decision you make, 100 choices, 1,000 choices, are you making the right choice? People worry about making the right choice all the time, and it's crazy. It's like there is no perfect choice.
Yeah, there's no perfect choice. You will fail and you will learn, and if you don't fail, you will succeed. That's the best outcome. And well in the US, what's the perception of your business? Because you're like you have a different design. It's not like it's a particular design. My sister loves your products because they're a very high quality product. So how do they perceive your product? Or maybe not just in the US, but in other countries too.
Yeah, we like I said, we sell in Europe, Japan, Australia, the US, and Canada is where most of our products are sold. Our products that are products that we make for designers, obviously we're in a very high level we're in a very high level market niche, and so people view our products as works of art, but they don't know us for those products, they know the designers. Our other products, our recyclable plastic products, have been sold in very high-end stores, Saks Fifth Avenue, Barney's, Fred Siegel, but now we're doing more internet sales, and so we're seeing how that works. And so we're always in a, there's always something new happening. Even sales and marketing is new. You used to go to these big trade shows. Now most things are online. So there's a bunch of different things that you continually have to do, to change, to keep up. And it's hard to always get that right.
Awesome.
But our products, I would say, are seen, people like our products and they last.
Yeah, they're amazing products. Yeah, my sister bought some of your products, and well, I touched the products, I feel them, and they're very high quality. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And well, you were talking at the beginning of the podcast of culture and story, that you don't compete with China, but you compete on brands. So
Well, yeah,
yeah,
right now, I would say, especially with the pandemic, is there's two real
well, I have
economies.
a question on that, and well, I found a book on Casa Mercado, and it was The Power of Myth by Joseph Campbell. And well, he talks about these figures, these symbols that create a perception of story in life, and you create your subconscious create value, but because it's a story and it's an icon or a symbol. And also entrepreneurs like Steve Jobs, and they talk about evangelism of people. So, what do you think of brands and evangelism communities? How do you build that? Because it's an asset too for your business, right?
Yes, you want to create like a brand identity, and I think you want to create a brand loyalty. And Apple certainly did that. Apple is probably the iconic brand. Um, and it's the iconic brand for a lot of reasons. One of the the reasons people were so loyal to it is because they are one of the few tech brands that don't sell the information of their clients. And so they're more loyal to their customer than they are to just a treating their customer as also a product. Um, I would say that branding is important, and but now this, I would say that a lot of the stories and the values that the brands represent are becoming more important. And like I mentioned, Patagonia, I would buy their products, are very expensive. They're outdoor products. They're oftentimes 5 times more expensive than cheaper products of the same sort of niche, but they will repair their products. You can send a product back, and if they can't fix it for you, they'll actually send you a new product. And they care about not having their products be garbage. And their audience is the outdoor audience. So their audience doesn't want nature to become a big garbage dump. So their audience is very receptive to their message. And so
Cool.
that is very important, to have this right story for the right audience.
Awesome.
And so that is the Apple user. It's a much more expensive computer, um, but it offers so much value. And I do have problems with Apple in that they do make it so their iPhones only last a certain amount of time. And I think they should actually, for their more conscientious, eco-friendly audience, make something that could have like an update, so that maybe they wouldn't have to buy a new iPhone. They could actually get an updated something or other. But the thing is that I think you're when you're branding, your audience and your message has to resonate. They and otherwise you can say whatever you want, you can do whatever you want, but if it's not in sync, you you really didn't accomplish anything.
Awesome. So the right message for the right audience, right?
Right.
Awesome. Well, you that was amazing. And do you think this Tim Ferriss author wrote this book, The 4 Hour Work Week? Do you think that's possible, or business people will always have to uh, deal with uh, business and yeah, dealing with clients? Do you think it's possible, the 4 hour work week myth?
That's interesting because I read that book, I don't know how many years ago, 10, 15 years ago when it first came out.
Mhm.
And that was just on the verge of when technology was starting to be able to be accessed. It wasn't at the level that it is now. And I think it's true. I think you could do it. But what's funny about Tim Ferriss is that I read some article about him and they said the guy writes this book called The 4-Hour Work Week, but every time I've written him an email, he responds within 2 minutes. And so obviously he's working like 24/7 all the time, because he never even, I write him at 10 at night, I write him at 6 in the morning, and he always will respond within like 15 minutes. So I think Tim Ferriss is a serial entrepreneur. He's written all those 4-hour books, the 4-hour, the
4 hour
cook,
chef.
the 4-hour chef, the whatever. And so I think it's possible, but I think it's possible if you control yourself. But but a lot of people that are so connected to tech solutions are are not saying, I'm going to only work for 4 hours and then I'm going to go surfing. I've met a few of those people. I've met a few of those people that like are virtual workers that work for 4 hours and then they're off and they go surfing, or they're living in the Canary Islands or whatever at that point in their life, or they're in Peru doing the Andes, doing Machu Picchu or something like that. I've met very few of those people. The majority of people I know that are like tech savvy and into entrepreneurship are logging in more hours than I would ever, they're logging in way more than 4 hours, because they just, that's their thing. So I think it's possible. I don't think for very many people it's probable.
Yeah. Well, it's like the from the beginning of your nomad years, you choose a lifestyle and you work with oh NGOs. Yeah, you choose
Yeah,
your lifestyle and then you choose your business model. You're right, because if your business model it's retail, then you're going to be there 24/7 selling on your own store. But if you
right,
choose drop shipping or affiliate marketing or something like that, you will just do some advertising, you will create campaigns, and that will work. And yeah, it's the business model, right? You choose your
right,
lifestyle and your business model, because yeah, it's if it's the other way around, you're working for your business, you're self-employed.
right, right. So if you do happen to get the choice, and I think you can choose to choose as well. You don't, like, people don't know that they
Yeah,
can
you
choose.
you can choose. Yeah, yeah. Those who can choose are those who don't plan, because yeah, if they don't plan, someone else will plan for them.
Right. Or they'll make do. Sometimes choosing to choose is a pretty hard decision, to
Yeah.
say, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to take this path. And sometimes that's tough.
Choosing to
Just to,
choose.
yeah.
Yeah, that will be more responsibility on accountability, right?
Yeah, I guess so. I guess so. But it's also realizing that you're like the owner of your life. And a lot of people are victims, and they don't believe that they're the owner of their lives. And
Yeah.
until you have the mindset that you're the owner of your life, you can't choose to choose. You're a victim of something else. You're a victim of certain.
Yeah, well, I think that's not the audience, because if that will be the case, they will choose a next podcast maybe. And we're going to the end of this podcast. And what do you think are some basic skills every entrepreneur should have before he start any business?
Resilience.
Okay.
You need to be able, you need to be able to take responsibility
What's
for
resilience in Spanish?
res, re, resilience is like in Spanish is no sé es resilient. No, I don't know. It's like
Google it. You can Google it. Okay.
Google it. You also need to be able to be responsible for your own decisions, and you need to have a little bit of a tough a thick skin, because you're going to fall down and stand up and fall down and stand up, and you need to be able to do that multiple times, because even if you have a successful business, you're going to fail in some kind of partner relationship or employee relationship, and you got to know how to constantly learn from your mistakes, and and know that you're going to make more mistakes.
Awesome. I like that you're telling more like basic principles instead of hey, just do sales, do marketing. These are basic principles, right? And right in
Uh,
mindset
all of
thinking.
all of all of what I learned, I've never taken a business class in my life. I was a philosophy major, and then I have a nursing degree.
Mm-hmm.
And so everything I've done is more from my gut and my heart than my brain. And I learned techniques later on. It would be better if I learned certain techniques earlier on, but that just wasn't how it happened. So, but I do trust my gut. Trust your gut is another thing.
Trust your gut. Yeah. Trust your gut. Yeah, because if you're really smart, even though if you don't take risk, you'll you'll end up like there are block stoppers, right? They're not hurdles, but that will become stoppers if they don't.
Right.
Okay. And well, we're going to the end of the podcast. That was amazing value you gave to the audience. And these are some questions I always ask to the guests. And well, one question is, what's something you like to spend your money on? Like you just spend, you don't invest it. It's
Travel.
gone.
Travel. I
Travel.
love to travel. I spend my money on travel, books, and food.
Books. Yeah, you're just thank you for it. You also gave me a book, The Art of the Start, The Art of yeah, from Gaika. I was like, that was an amazing book. Thank you, Anna. Yeah, that was brilliant. Thank you.
You're welcome. I don't even know where that book came from.
Oh my god. Yeah, but it was amazing because you gave me the book and I was starting my business and it was like a blueprint and it was actionable and it really helped me.
Great.
It was like
Fantastic.
timing, right? Timing, where it's like some guru. You were my guru because you helped me. It wasn't expected. It was just timing and luck. Yeah, that's something
Thank you.
beautiful in life, right? It's just timing. You can't control timing, but sometimes it's a turnaround in your life that help you become better. And
What's your next question?
yeah, what did you learn that well like well I used a translator for this one. Correct me.
I'll try to figure. You can say it in Spanish.
Ok, qué es algo que aprendiste recién que te hubiera gustado que te enseñen hace 3 años?
One of the most important things is that I had to have a better accountant. I
Ok.
had to, the money you have to be, even if you are interested in the design features of your business or the tech features of your business, you always have to keep an eye on your money. And if you don't keep an eye on the money, you're very likely going to have problems. And
Yeah.
so I have, even after 30 years in business, I realized I had to keep much better a much closer eye on the money, even if I didn't like that part of the business.
Okay, keep an eye on the money. And well, you can, if you want to improve that, you can call me and we can, I can show you the POS, or you can just use any POS. Are you using one? A point of sale where you can control cash flow
We are, we
online. You can
don't,
control
we have
online.
Yeah, no, we have two different sales models. One is sales to clients. So we only have 20 or 30 clients, but they're giving us,
80% of your income.
huge orders. Yeah, they're giving us probably 60% of the business because it's not direct to customer. So we are revamping our direct client contacts. So you can give me a sales pitch later on this month.
Yeah, that's how we met, right? Yeah, I'm a sales guy. I like sales, but yeah, if people will benefit from the thing I sell, it's awesome for me.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, last two questions. What's a new software you're using right now that's making your life easier? Or is there any software that's helping you?
You know what is interesting? Because like I said, we started before the computer. We
Hmm.
started our business before the computer. Our orders came in by fax machine.
Okay.
You can't even dream of that. We use typewriters. Okay. So technology means something different to you than it means to me. I've seen the rise
Yeah.
of technology, and it's mind-boggling to me. One of the things that is not new at all, but I would say, is very interesting in the way our business has changed, is that now all of our artisans, they can live in the middle of nowhere, and they're herding their sheep, and they're on WhatsApp, sending us messages and showing us pieces of knitting from, you know, donde el diablo ha perdido su poncho. And so that technology, even though that's the most basic technology right now, is WhatsApp, is revolutionary for working with artisans in the middle of nowhere. Literally, we'll have a woman on a hill with her sheep sending us photos. And so that's not a tech program or anything like that, but that has revolutionized our business.
Yeah.
Because before we would have to go out to the village and collect this and see if the stitch was right. And now she can just send us a, and so we are actually looking for different online platforms for online sales in the US and here. So that's one of the things we're interested in.
Awesome. So you're looking for an e-commerce solution?
We're looking for, various e-commerce solutions. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Okay, so this is the last question,
Okay.
and yeah, maybe because you love books, you can answer this question. What are the three books every wannabe entrepreneur should read? Well, this is a wannabe entrepreneur, it's not an entrepreneur. And yeah, maybe you can help them with that. It's a wannabe entrepreneur.
I would actually read The 4 Hour Work Week. I think that's actually kind of an interesting book. Um, I I've read a lot of books by Paul Hawken. Paul Hawken writes
Paul
about
Hawken.
sustainable business, and he had a business that was very, very influential in the United States, a catalog business about gardening. He was one of the first sustainable business guys. So there's a bunch. He's an author that I would look at all of his books, and then I would actually read. This is kind of a difficult book to read, but Holistic Management by Alan Savory. But it's about
Holistic
decision making
management
management
by
by
Alan.
Alan Savory.
Okay.
But it's more about, but he thinks that the biggest problems of the world is that we don't have a holistic context to make decisions. And
What's
that
the
goes
meaning of holistic? It's like an overview. What's the meaning?
integral. You have to take everything, as many different complexities. Life is complex. So you have to take as many context as possible within the context that you need to have all the players. You need to take uh, 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 into consideration the planet. You need to do all sorts of things that you normally don't do. You have to broaden your scope and then focus your scope. And it's a system. And he's a brilliant man. He's reversing the desertification of Africa. So places that have become deserts, he's now making them green. And
Oh,
he's doing that through sort of collaboration with nature. But his main point is that decision-making processes are our main problem in the world. Governments make bad decisions. People make bad decisions in business. Everybody makes bad decisions. Why do we make bad decisions? And that's
how do you
so
make good decisions then? That's
well,
the.
I'm starting to try to use his approach much more.
Mhm.
I'm starting to try to listen and ask everybody. If there's a problem, I want to ask the person who cleans the office, to the person who is the accountant, to the person who's doing production. I want to see everybody's idea about what's going on. Why is that a problem, and how can we solve it? And there's also another book called Kaizen, The Art of Taking Small Steps, which is a fantastic book. And it's about just focus that everybody, you can make small changes every single day. You don't have to make a huge change. You can make small changes. And everybody has a good idea about how to make small changes. And it's a very good book. And it was used in making the Japanese model of big companies after World War II, when the Japan's economy was trash.
Kaizen. I think
Yeah.
my girlfriend is going to love this episode. it's it's just the questions that she have and the obstacles she's having right now. You answer those questions.
Well, thank
Okay,
you.
Anna. Well,
Okay.
this is the last question. It's not the last question. Well, it's just a goodbye. Where people can find you for business, and also where people can also buy Tote La Vie.
Okay. Well, we're on Facebook for Tote La Vie on Facebook, Tote La Vie, Aha Bolivia, Tote La Vie brand on Instagram. Our email is aha Bolivia, Bolivia @gmail.com. And so we have websites, Facebook, Instagram, and if you want to get in touch with me, I'm just write to ahabolivia @gmail.com. That is one of our emails. And
Awesome.
when I finish writing my book, I'll ask Luis to interview me again.
For marketing purposes. Yeah. Yeah, maybe I will grow my audience then, but yeah, people will be very thankful for you for what you teach us today, and yo también estoy muy agradecido. Entonces,
Gracias, Luis, and good luck in all of your endeavors. You're you're go getter. You're good. You really like focus, even though you can be bothersome when you're trying to sell me something. But you're good.
I will send you
You're
cold
really good.
emails then. And, okay, Anna, thank you.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much, Luis. Bye bye. Have a good day.